There's one player we haven't accounted for. Quarterback.
I was just going to say the quarterback. Okay, let's be very systematic about this. Is he a dreadful player?
When he has a lot of good players around him, at times, yeah, he makes some plays. You can't sack him. He gets away. It's like, how is he doing this? But essentially, he's a dreadful player if he has a lot of dreadful players around him.
Right.
So no,
he's a complimentary player.
He's a complimentary player.
Like, for example, Mahomes can win even if he doesn't have great players around him.
Right.
Josh Allen wins without having great players around him. Purdy can't. They are dreadful.
Yeah.
Purdy does not have that level of dreadfulness. He's a complimentary player. So, Iggy, I like him. I believe they can win with him. Maybe they can even win a Super Bowl with him. I don't think they can with this coach, but maybe they could with him. But in and of himself, he's not at the dreadful level that Mahomes or Josh Allen are.
I think he's similar to Hurts in the sense that, I mean, they're completely different quarterbacks, but they're both in like the not quite dreadful tier in the sense that if they're really good complementary players. And if they're in a complementary role where they don't have to be the man, and you can have games where they throw 20 passes, give or take, they're great. Those 20 passes are really good, and they can do a little bit more. They can do a little bit with their legs, Hurts especially. And I think you saw it with McCaffrey in the backfield with Purdy. Purdy can go really far to the Super Bowl. And with Barkley in the backfield with Hurts just might win the whole thing. It's not like either team needs to actively replace their quarterbacks. They just have to know what they are despite how much they're paying them.
Right, and know how to use them.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. Hurts is an entirely different kind of player to Purdy, but what they ask Hurts to do is limited. Mm-hmm. First of all, they have that great running back, and he gets the ball a lot. Hurts can run himself, and he's good swinging out to the right and throwing on the run. He's good at that.
And he's accurate enough on the short passes. Like a lot of mobile guys are just like indecisive, like Justin Fields, indecisive, holds the ball too long. Hurts doesn't do any of that. He'll take all the little short throws and take a couple deep shots, but he's essentially a decisive, conservative, modest quarterback.
And that's a very good thing.
It is.
And Purdy is sort of like that as well.
Yeah, he is.
Neither of them has the dread factor.
That being said, like, if Saquon Barkley were to go down in the first quarter of the NFC Championship game with an ankle injury, and Hurts had to like all of a sudden step into the role of being the man and lead, I wouldn't expect him to do very well in that role. And I think that's the problem with paying all that money for a quarterback who's not the man. It can work. You just also have to find like the best running back in football. And the Niners and Eagles did, to their credit. But I don't know if the Niners I don't know if CMC is going to come back to being that, or if the Niners can do it again with someone else.
Right, and we saw what happened to Purdy without CMC. That's what we saw. It's like what would happen to Hurts without Barkley. So yeah, very, very interesting. So we're not knocking. We both really like Brock Purdy. And look, what we're saying that he needs a really good supporting cast or complementary bunch of guys. Steve Young says that all the time. Right. He says it all the time. So we're not saying anything that's out of the ordinary or outrageous.
Yeah, Steve Young never had to play without Jerry Rice for an extended period. I mean, I guess Jerry Rice got hurt a few times, but they were always on the team together. Then he had T.O. at the end of his career. He had some good players around him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even Josh Allen, who people think he doesn't have a lot. He has a lot of good players around him. And the running backs are good. The tight ends are good. Anyway, I'm kind of starting to accept the fact that the Niners are going to pay Brock Purdy a lot of money. I don't think it's the right thing to do, but the Eagles are a really good organization, and they paid Hurts a lot of money. And I wouldn't think that's a good thing to do, but they're still winning. And they've structured their team in such a way that contract isn't hurting them yet.
Okay, we'll see what happens with Purdy's contract. Well, I think there's going to be a lot of drama and discussion about that when we actually know what it is.
Can't
And
wait.
remember,
Frank,
hold on, Iggy, hold on. It's not our money.
I know. It's
It's
not.
not our money.
It's not. Frank R says more desirable, Niners DC or Jack's head coaching job. Niners have better defensive assets. Fred, Bosa, Lenore, Renardo. 2025 strength of schedule, a factor in decision. 2025 draft capital. Niners more picks, Jack's pick higher.
It's always better to be a head coach and a coordinator.
Right.
You get more money, and money matters. You get more money, and you get more of time. The Niners seem to fire their defensive coordinator once every season. If you go to Jacksonville, you get a 2 or 3 year contract and time to
Exactly.
rebuild.
That's the big one. If you come to the Niners, you're not guaranteed to be here beyond 2025.
Right. So it's
Yeah.
not even close.
Yeah. All day, every day, Kim says Niners would have lost by 20 any of the last week's games.
I totally agree. They could not have stood up to any of those teams.
And we saw it. They went into Buffalo and gave it their best. It didn't go so well. They're not built to play in the bad weather. Ethan M says hiring Saleh will just enable Kyle to continue being a bad head coach. They need him. They need him, but they shouldn't be. There shouldn't be any less pressure on Kyle. He's the root of the problem.
Totally agree.
I agree. Desperately waiting for a defensive coordinator to save their bacon.